今天我们打算来做一个 spaghetti bolognese，其实可能就是希腊版本的意大利面。现在我们要准备这些食材。
Okay, so for that we will be certainly needing some minced meat. This is mixed pork and chicken, but you can get whichever one you prefer. We need one big onion. I don't have one big onion. I have a medium and a small one, so I will be using those. And you need tomato juice. These tomatoes are trimmed, and this is tomato paste. You don't need all of these three, but in case you need a more potent flavor, it's best if you have at least two. I have all of them, so I will be using them today. And of course, spaghetti, the classic shape, I always use number 6 because it's thicker and it has a more interesting bite if you cook it until al dente. So I will be using like a large wok we have to cook everything inside, and I won't be starting with spaghetti. I will leave this for last. I will start with a salsa. Okay, so I have chopped the onions in half and I will put them in the blender. The blender has very sharp edges here, so this will allow us to get the onion into very thin and tiny pieces that will blend with the pork very nicely.
现在我们把这个洋葱打碎了，放了一点油在锅里面，先热锅。现在把洋葱碎末放进去了。
Okay, so I usually use less oil than that, but because today we also have to cook the meat, it's best to use a little bit more oil than less, because there's a chance that it will come out very dry if you don't, so be a bit mindful of that. So as you can see, the onion is a lot. It pretty much covers the entire surface. It still has a yellow greenish color. We need to get it to almost transparent before we add the minced pork. The meat needs to be completely unfrozen and soft before you put it in the pan. Not warm by any means, but definitely without any ice. So as you can see, the onion is pretty yellow still, but when it blends in with the minced meat, it's going to disappear kind of, so that's okay. Obviously this oil is not enough because I can feel slight resistance when I'm trying to blend everything in, so I will add a little bit more olive oil. Always use olive oil, don't use other oils, because generally for Mediterranean cuisine we didn't really use ever any other form of oil, so the taste will be so different and like not as good. So this recipe calls only for olive oil or anything that looks like it. You can use also olive oil that is from the course of the olives. It's cheaper in the supermarket. And blend it in really well with the minced onion. Okay, so as you can see now, we can no longer see the onion. You have to keep stirring your minced meat until it turns into this gray warm brown color. You absolutely should not be able to see any red or pink in it before you add the rest of the ingredients. You have to cook it separately. Again, if you notice a lot of resistance in your pan, it means you haven't added enough olive oil, so don't hesitate to add a little bit more bit by bit. So as you can see now, it has turned into this beige warm gray color completely. Also, we can no longer see the onion at all, and we're going to be adding our trimmed tomatoes. I decided I will not be using the tomato paste today. Okay, about this much I think is okay to start. So I will not be using the paste today because the previous time I used it and it was a bit too tomatoey even for me. So this is a good place to start. And I'm gonna add a little bit of tomato juice as well. This is very low in potency, so you can add more and you're still going to be fine. We want to turn it slightly pink again. Okay, now we need to add all of our spices. First of all, we need to use a little bit of salt. I use a lot of spices. This is pepper. I don't love pepper, so I don't use that much. My favorite one is cumin. This is a Turkish spice, but it always adds a very nice flavor into it. And my second favorite is bahar. You can find this in the supermarket, in any supermarket really. Also a Turkish one. It goes very nicely with all the meats actually. And you stir. At this point, another thing that I really like to add is some wine. We have rosé wine. I don't really like its taste. It's best if you use red wine if you have it in hand, but really any alcohol can add a little bit more flavor into your sauce. I will add only a bit, literally only a sip, just for that extra taste. You don't need more than that. And you need to always add it towards the end of your cooking. So now I want to lower the heat and let it cook for a little bit. I will add some water and mix it very well. You don't have to do this, but because the water will get eventually absorbed, and because I like my spaghetti to be very well mushed in the sauce, I prefer to always do that again towards the end and after everything has mixed and blended. So I will put on the lid and I will leave it there for a few minutes in very low heat. You know when it's ready if you do this and it's sitting behind. You can eyeball it and say if you want to add like more water or if it's dry enough for you, but this is pretty good for me. So now we will leave this aside and make our spaghetti. Okay, we need a very deep pot. I have added 2/3 of water. I use the boiler to speed up the process a little bit, because if you just leave it here, even with the lid, it's gonna take some time. To speed it up even more, you need to add the salt as soon as possible. Spaghetti require a lot of salt, really a lot. I'm not even sure if this is enough, but this is how much I usually use, and I guess they're fine for me. And you've got to mix it in very well. And now the temperature will rise because salt generally tends to do that. And when it starts bubbling, which means that the water is fully boiled, we will be adding all our spaghetti in. Okay, so now I'm dropping all of my spaghetti in. An entire packet is enough to feed 4 people. So you can check how much time spaghetti requires to actually be cooked on your packaging, because different brands require different times. This one you can see here, it's 12 to 13 minutes. I'm gonna cook it for 30 minutes, which is the maximum. There's a clock on my oven, so I will be checking that. Constantly stir, do not let them stick to each other or to the bottom. Okay, our spaghetti is fully cooked now. I used to strain the spaghetti and add a little bit of olive oil and mix it in so that they don't stick to each other. But I find that it's so much better flavor-wise to mix them while they're still hot. So I add them directly into the sauce. Okay, so now that we have added all the spaghetti in, because this is a non-stick wok, I can't use that fork thingy to mix them in, so I'm using 2 wooden spoons. It's gonna take some time because we don't have much space in the pan and it's a lot, but trust me, it's important that you mix them while everything is still warm. So this is our final result. I usually serve it in a plate and you can grate some cheese on it. I have grated some cheddar, which is not very Italian or Greek, to be honest. Cheddar is English, but you can use feta cheese or you can buy already trimmed cheese from the supermarket, preferably a very salty one. I think it doesn't go as well with sweet cheeses.
这是另外一种我的吃法，就是里面放一些feta在里面，这个就是比较咸一点，我偏好这种口味。你要是自己的话，也可以自己选择吧。
But yeah, this is our spaghetti bolognese. We hope you enjoyed today's recipe and that you found it useful.